You know the word satsang, it means a gathering in truth. A gathering that creates the manifestation of truth through the bringing of love into manifest form. And it's a gathering in which your questions that you all have on your spiritual path can be answered to help you arrive at that. And the gathering itself allows us to knit together a true community, a true sangha of human beings regaining our natural divinity after having forgotten about it for so long. And the remembrance is instantaneous, just as we proved to ourselves in this very short meditation. But now it must remain remembered constantly. The sanskara of that remembrance of our divine source must become constant. It must become a natural pattern to remember and to act from this higher vibrational level. And so today we are here to give thanks to the source of our being. As Radha mentioned, we're not celebrating the Gringo holiday, which has become a holiday to celebrate, unfortunately, a lack of thankfulness that what started out as a thankfulness to indigenous peoples who saved the lives of European settlers, and then that thankfulness quickly turned into oppression and conquest and negativity that continues. But we are here to celebrate a holiday of which that is a continuation that has gone back thousands and thousands of years to the very dawn of human culture, in which we celebrate the harvest. We give thanks for the fact that nature itself and the God of nature provides for us the food whereby we can continue our lives. And yet that harvest can only be can only manifest if we have created a community in which people are willing to work together, to sow, to till the fields, to plant, to irrigate, to guard the fields, to help the plants arise, and then to harvest them together. So a whole community is required. And we're celebrating not only the harvest, but the community love and connection that allowed us to have such a harvest so that we could continue our lives in the most beautiful way, in harmony with nature. And to be in harmony with nature, we must be in harmony with ourselves. And to be in harmony with the self, one must be in harmony with the source. And largely that has been lost today. People living in an urban culture don't even know that there is a harvest. They think things come in cans, and boxes, and don't realize how it comes out of the earth, and what seasons are required, and what conditions and what efforts must be made by the farmers. And all of that has been lost to consciousness, and there's very little thankfulness any longer. It's usually, why didn't I get more, or this isn't as good as last year's, or that kind of an attitude of demand rather than of gratitude. And that attitude then closes the heart, and it creates illness, literally, because it is an attitude of gratitude that opens up the actual organs of the body and the flow of the meridians of the prana to give health into our physical nature as well as our spiritual nature. And so it is essential for ourselves that we give thanks. And the word thank means blessing. So to give blessings and thanks to the source, to the community, and to nature, all of which, through their interwoven synergies, allow life to become a heaven on earth rather than a hell. So we must recreate community again, starting from the source. And a satsang is a beautiful place to continue and to re-enter into a community of love. Not a community of competition and struggle, but a community of mutuality, of recognition of one another's divine being, and of honoring that essence and harmoniously working together to manifest the most beautiful possible creations together. And the reason that's so essential these days is because the false self, the ego self, has become more and more powerful in controlling our minds, and more neurotic and dysfunctional, and we have become enslaved to a false identification. And that's why a spiritual path is necessary, to overcome the habit patterns of a false self that cripple our ability to lead a healthy and beautiful and prosperous life. They create patterns of behavior that cause us to be afraid to make a commitment to a spiritual community or to a path of growth, or unable to keep that commitment even if we have made it. We draw back. We find ourselves vacillating, hesitating. One moment yes, one moment no, and we have no control over our minds. And the same thing is true not just with the spiritual path, but with every aspect of life. Should I be with this person or not? One day you say yes, the next minute even you say no. And you can't make a decision, you can't keep it. You don't know, do I go left, do I go right? And so people are going around in circles, or their will is paralyzed and their lives are caught in a deadlock. And these patterns then create bipolarities, up and down, the manic depressive pattern, the feeling I can do everything, and then the collapse into the catatonia of despair. And people are trapped in these kinds of patterns because they have not transcended the ego mind to discover the mind of God within. And so a satsang, again, is a path to be able to let go of the ego mind that has so imprisoned us in anxieties and depression and despair and negativity and hatred and anger and all the things that we know about so well, and prevent us from accessing the source of love and creative power that is within each of us. And so if we can be courageous enough to be humble enough to find the help that we need to let go of these obstacles within, we can all be free. Liberation is our birthright, and it's not difficult. But it requires the commitment to do that. It requires at least enough capacity for a wholehearted acceptance of the need to be on a path and to be focused on discovering who one really is and what is the true meaning and purpose of one's life, and then living that, not just giving lip service to it, but living it and working through the internal obstacles and distortions. And they are very difficult, and it's on a spectrum. For some, they're not so difficult, and for others, because of the wounds, traumas of childhood, the defense mechanisms have become very, very thick indeed, and a lot of work is required in order to heal. And that's why the energy field of a spiritual community and the wisdom of the traditions of healing that have been developed by humanity over thousands of years must be taught, must be transmitted, so that we gain the skills to heal our own hearts of their hurt, their pain, and the defenses around them that have distorted our ability to love and to accept love. And once that has happened, then life really begins. Then we really have something to be thankful for, because we have found the source. And so if one doesn't feel that gratitude now, if one still feels the vexations and the pain and the suffering of the ego, know that there is a path to the light at the end of that tunnel that will bring you a state of gratitude and grace, beatitude, and of new life. And that this is the path that has been taught in every culture, every religion. It's the same path of a death and a rebirth. We're all on the cross. We're all Buddha sitting under the tree. We are all seeking for the enlightenment of the real self, and all of us have the ability to achieve it if we have a one-pointed focus on gaining that true self. It's not difficult, and it won't take many lifetimes. One simply has to desire it and be able to metabolize that desire in terms of the practice of meditation and the taking in of clear information that can refute the self-deception of the ego mind, so that one has clarity. And the teachings and the practices of a spiritual path can open up the veils and the obscurities that the ego will try to put in front of your capacity to think clearly. And once they have been cleared away, then the path is very easy, very fast, because it's our natural state. It's simply a matter of remembering the original mind before the conditionings of the ego were in place that distorted our ability to understand reality.